You've watched a lot of these over the years. Have you ever heard a candidate being booed at one of these?
No, I've been trying to figure that out. Have you ever heard booing at an Al Smith dinner, as we heard tonight with Donald Trump? No, and the answer is I don't know for sure, but I don't think so. There's such a risk here of sounding partisan, but I must tell you there was a real difference between the two. Donald Trump was very much himself, but he didn't seem to know the difference between being lighthearted and heavy-handed. And, this is supposed to be a lighthearted kind of occasion. And he had several jokes that were sort of pretty tough jokes about her, basically calling her corrupt, that the emails show she pretends to have like the Catholic Church and that sort of thing. He was, I thought, particularly good when he talked about Melania. That was funny and humorous in the right spirit. But I think there was a reason that the boos were there, and that was that he went over the line on several occasions. She was a much more traditional, I know people don't necessarily like tradition anymore, she was much more the traditional kind of speaker. And at the Gridiron Club in Washington, their dinner, they say, you should singe but never burn. And her jokes had much more of the singeing quality that I think served. Some of them were lame.
It was interesting, Gloria, because both people have been there before. Donald Trump said he used to go with his father. Clearly, Hillary Clinton has been there over the years as well.
Yeah, and I think Donald Trump missed the self-deprecating part. He's been there. Maybe his joke writers haven't been there. But I think it was sort of uncomfortable to me just watching it. I don't know how you guys feel, but I felt Trump couldn't get away from the nastiness about her. Didn't joke about himself very much, except maybe at the beginning when
saying
he joked
he was humble.
That's right. People didn't think I could be good at this. And Hillary was a lot more lighthearted, but you could tell sometimes in looking at her, and she hit it more than she didn't, but you could tell sometimes in looking at her how kind of tough it was for her. And, her Statue of Liberty joke when she said, he looks at the Statue of Liberty and sees a 4, maybe a 5. That's funny, but it's also serious.
Yeah, in fact, let's play the Statue of Liberty thing, because I think we have it queued up.
People look at the Statue of Liberty and they see a proud symbol of our history as a nation of immigrants, a beacon of hope for people around the world. Donald looks at the Statue of Liberty and sees a 4. Maybe a 5 if she loses the torch and tablet and changes her hair.
Also, probably one of the best laughs that Donald Trump got was the joke about Michelle Obama speaking and Melania Trump speaking. Let's play that.
Michelle Obama gives a speech, and everyone loves it. It's fantastic. They think she's absolutely great. My wife, Melania, gives the exact same speech. And people get on her case. And I don't get it. I don't know why. And it wasn't her fault. Stand up, Melania. Come on. She took a lot of abuse.
John King, what did you make of what you heard tonight?
Well, I think to David's point and to Gloria's point, the license you get to beat up, to zing the other one, comes from the self-deprecation. The more you zing yourself, the more license you get to go after the other. Donald Trump did very little self-deprecation. He used his wife as an example, or she took one for the team, if you will, with that joke there, and it was very funny. That one was very funny. But look, these two, I agree with everything that has been said before me, that Hillary Clinton was more in the spirit of the event, beat up herself a little bit first, in a funny way, and it gave her a license. But let's be honest, if we went back and compared this to the last few cycles, these two don't like each other. And it was obvious. They were doing much more of the campaign policy debate was coming up even in these jokes tonight. John McCain and Barack Obama didn't know each other all that well, but they got along a little bit in the Senate. They knew each other. Mitt Romney and President Obama, they didn't know each other at all, but they had respect for each other. They were warriors in public service. Let's just be blatantly obvious. This is harder for these two because they don't like each other. And one other point, they also understand in the age we live in, we watch this live on television. That didn't used to happen. And just like a debate, this will get recycled in social media. So they're not just trying to be funny tonight. They're trying to do some business.
Yeah, I don't think not only do they not like each other, but in many ways I don't think they respect each other, as you were saying. And I think that's a real problem. And I think back to Barack Obama and Mitt Romney in 2012, they ended with talking about the other person's family. You know, Romney said that Obama has a wonderful wife and a wonderful family, and they're great role models. And they ended up complimenting each other at the end of their speeches. And you didn't really hear that tonight. You heard Hillary Clinton talk about the system, and at the beginning of Donald Trump's speech, he didn't even acknowledge that Hillary Clinton was there.
Yeah, the other part of this that I think distinguishes the two is that at the end she had this statement that was about unity and about respect for
And
the
linking it
Catholic
back to
Church.
Al Smith.
And linking it back to Al Smith. That's much more the traditional. You know, you do the humor, but at the end you get serious and you deliver a more emotional pitch. And she had that, and I think that helped. I think it elevated what she had to say, and he did not go there.
Also in this room, Anderson, if I could comment quickly, her faith experience. Donald Trump
Yes.
did not talk about his personal faith experience in any way at all. And she said, you know, I'm not a Methodist. I'm not a Catholic, I'm a Methodist, but we share a lot of things in common. She does have a deeply rooted personal faith experience that in this audience, I don't know how it plays out in the country, but in this audience tonight, it's important to be personal and connect yourself to the event you're at.
Right.
This has been historically, this has been a dinner where actually the Cardinals have been reluctant sometimes to invite the Democrat because of their abortion views. You know, more than one occasion, the Democratic nominee hasn't been invited. But here, she seemed a little more at home than he did.
Right. Talking to Cardinal Dolan.
Yeah, I remember the cross-talking.
Right.
Did they shake hands with each other?
Trump and Clinton just shook hands with each other. We're told before the event they did not. As Donald Trump went up to go to the dais, he sort of patted Hillary Clinton on the shoulder. As he left, there was no contact at all, but I believe they just shook hands. Yeah, they just shook hands. One of the jokes was about them bumping into each other backstage. Let's take a look at that.
We have proven that we can actually be civil to each other. In fact, just before taking the dais, Hillary accidentally bumped into me, and she very civilly said, "Pardon me." And I very politely replied, "Let me talk to you about that after I get into office."
And as we talked about earlier, Donald Trump was there was actually booing in the crowd at certain points. Let's just play some of that.
Hillary is so corrupt. She got kicked off the Watergate Commission. Hillary believes that it's vital to deceive the people by having one public policy and a totally different policy in private. That's okay. I don't know who they're angry at, Hillary. You're right. Here she is tonight in public, pretending not to hate Catholics.
Christine Quinn, obviously you're a Clinton supporter, but as someone who's been at that dinner, what did you hear tonight? How was it different than in the past?
I've been to that dinner like 6, 7, 8 times when I was Speaker of the City Council. I have never heard boos like that, never. And that's with the presidential nominees speaking, that's with the president speaking, that's with, military and other leaders speaking. I mean, sometimes people aren't funny, and then it's like, come on, let's speed it along. But I've never heard that before. It's just not something that happens. And I've also never heard a presidential nominee full-throated attack their opponent. I mean, they make these jokes. You saw that with Hillary, you saw that with him, but I have never seen a presidential nominee do that. And I think if you saw the look on Cardinal Dolan's face when it happened, it was clearly shocking to him and everybody else there, because that's simply not what's done. And people may say, well, Donald Trump's untraditional, whatever, but it's that man's dinner, right? The Cardinal Dolan, and he kind of sets the rules. And if you don't want to follow them, that's your prerogative. But then don't come and act in a manner of aggressiveness that simply is not in the tone or tradition of that dinner.
We do have the shot of them actually shaking hands after it was over. I think we're going to just play that. And that was it. All right. Jeffrey Lord, what did you make of it tonight?
Well, I thought they both did very well with the humor and all of this, and then they had their serious points. I mean, I take Christine's point here that maybe he was a little too sharp. But in all candor, I mean, I honestly don't think most of the people in America are going to wake up tomorrow morning and say,
well, that's for sure.
What'd you think about the Al Smith dinner last night?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I really think that this is just, if you will, fodder for us, for the media, for the sort of New York City population. But I don't really think this means anything. But it
is an interesting window of how, you know, somebody. I mean, it's always interesting to see somebody who's, you know, one of them is going to be president. They're going to be doing a lot of events like this. How they are able to kind of comport themselves in a variety of settings.
Right. It is interesting, and it's always reflected through somebody's personality. David and I'm sure we're both fans of Ronald Reagan's appearances at this kind of thing. So it is what it is, and I just, you know.
I mean, I would just, you're right. There's not a lot of people who are going to go to bed tonight and you know, think about what happened here, except that Donald Trump's main challenge is temperament. And this isn't just a thing that Clinton has put forward. We've, you know, Washington Post, ABC polling, he has always been seen as not qualified by more than half of the country. The main reason why, according to a Quinnipiac University poll, is because people are concerned about his temperament. And I think that this is an easy layup. This is, you go there, you get someone to write some jokes, you tell the jokes, you come across as easygoing. This was an easy thing for him to do. And quite frankly, he blew it. And, you know, he needs to reinforce over the course of the next 19 days that he has the temperament.
I don't
well, I mean, I wasn't in the room, but I heard boos.
Jeffrey, with all due respect, he did blow it. Because one, no one gets booed at that event. Two, you are not supposed to at that event, it is clearly known, attack aggressively your opponent.
Christine,
that is not the dinner that Al Smith and the Cardinal hold. And again, to temperament, if you don't want to abide by those rules, don't come, but don't sign up for X and do Y.
Look at the visual. He's being booed by a bunch of people wearing white tie and tails.
It's not about whether you
you,
can use
if
it.
you're going to go down that road, that's not helpful.
It's not about that. It's about how one behaves. And if you're invited
in this
to an
climate,
event,
it is about that.
No,
though.
if you're invited to an event and these are the rules, and
I
the
get
same
you.
way it was odd that Ted Cruz came to the convention and didn't endorse the nominee, it's just bizarre.
There are moments of gracious, you know, you think back to the second debate, at the end of the second debate, when the town hall person asked, you know, can you each say something nice about the other person? Donald Trump came up with actually something that was gracious and I think heartfelt, that she doesn't give up, she doesn't quit. I mean, he ran a commercial essentially attacking her, you know, saying the opposite thing a couple days later, but I thought it was a very gracious
He
kind
patted
of
her
moment.
on the shoulder on the way up to the podium tonight.
But just in terms of the comment, it wasn't exactly sort of in the. I mean, he has graciousness in him when he wants to. Tonight, perhaps, was not the best
There's
display.
no question. There's tension here. I mean, as we were listening last night to the debate, I certainly think I heard that it was the Clinton campaign that requested that no handshakes be given with the families, coming from the Clinton campaign. So, I mean, you know why? I mean, that was sort of untraditional, too. So, I mean, it's just clear that there's tension here. And
Here's another moment from tonight, Donald Trump earlier. Let's listen.
Be here with 1,000 wonderful people, or as I call it, a small, intimate dinner with some friends. Or as Hillary calls it, her largest crowd of the season.
Lighthearted moment.
Yeah.
I think on the shaking hands, my understanding of that was that the Clinton people didn't want to do it because of the stunt Donald Trump pulled in the second debate of inviting those people, trying to get them in the family box. That's my understanding.
That's
but
right.
I think they were concerned. Who knows who's going to show up in that box
well,
this
you should
time?
be able to shake hands with anybody, is what they're saying, and then suddenly not.
Well,
I just want to make one point here, and please weigh in. It goes beyond this particular dinner, and that is humor is a very important aspect of leadership. The capacity to bring people along through humor, sometimes to break. And we talked about, you know, Kennedy was famous at this, Reagan was famous at this, but the most famous of all was Abraham Lincoln, who went through terrible, terrible times, and he managed to hold people together through his uses of humor. And I felt somehow Donald Trump has not relaxed enough. He's just not let himself go. I think he can be funnier than he is.
I find him very funny.
But somehow what he comes across tonight was he brought the spirit of last night's debate into the night. And it's like it didn't work in this environment.
a really important thing for a candidate is to be having fun.
Yeah.
And I think at this point in the campaign, Donald Trump is not having any fun. And not just Donald, any candidate, myself in the past, if you're not having fun, it shows.
And you know,
it really does show.
Al Smith himself was known as the happy warrior.
Yes, that's
That was
right.
very, very important to his leadership.
Let's play another moment of Hillary Clinton talking about Rudy Giuliani, who was also there. Let's watch.
We have Rudy Giuliani. Now, many don't know this, but Rudy actually got his start as a prosecutor, going after wealthy New Yorkers who avoided paying taxes. But as the saying goes, if you can't beat him, go on Fox News and call him a genius.
Rudy Giuliani did not seem to be enjoying it. I mean, it's the kind of thing, if you're going to go to this thing and be made fun of, you have to sort of laugh along with it.
And you're sitting on the dais too, right? Where everyone's going to see you. Look, Anderson, I just wanted to say, look, 19 days left. I'm a campaign person, and this what happened tonight is not going to move undecided voters. It's not going to engage really excite the base at all. But I have to say, watching this, especially Donald Trump's component of it, it was cringeworthy. There were some uncomfortable moments, and it's odd because he started off talking about temperament. He made fun of himself about his lack of temperament, and then he pivoted and started to attack her and showed his lack of temperament. So, but at the end of the day, we're going to be talking about it for about 24 hours, and then we'll move on.
I mean, and this is the thing that I think drives a lot of people nuts. She is very polished in a political sense. And so at the end, when she's saying we can't be divisive, I mean, what she's saying is basically, Donald, I'm attacking you because you're divisive. So she's doing exactly what you say, but she's just doing it in the old-fashioned political sense, and
or in a subtle sense, as opposed to a completely unsubtle,
in a lighthearted way, and some kindness, right? So
It shows the difference of 40 years of being in the public spotlight in office where you adjust, and it shows someone who's led a corporate boardroom. That's really what it shows. And she has been able to adapt and knows what the public wants to see better than he has, because he's been more of a different type of leader. They are different.
But he's been at endless social events and endless parties. I mean, it's not as if he's been living in a
no, but what
TV,
TV,
his television, his whole television life has been sort of how do you ingratiate yourself with a big audience?
No question, but I think Jeffrey really nailed it, that she was much more cautious in how she took the shots. I also thought she went on a lot longer than he did, and maybe it was just me, but it seemed like the shots kept coming from her. His were a lot more, we'll get it over with, and it just drug on, that she just kept pounding.
I don't know about the timing that may or may not be true. She had some pretty funny jokes, had some not so funny jokes, had some, as was said before, moments where she sinned.
Especially not either of their, special.
Totally, right.
President Obama at the, I don't go to the White House court dinner, but I've seen it on television, and, he's given some funny monologues at that event.
Comedy Cellar is not holding a spot for either of these people. That's a fact.
They're not going to be at the Laugh Shack.
But I just say at the end, I do think I thought it was lovely, and I thought it reflected understanding what you're a part of, and that's a dinner for Catholic Charities, and and the Catholic Church and I don't agree on everything, but that's a critical organization. Yeah. My mother was a social worker there. They take care of children and others in New York and across the country who are disregarded, and to hearken back to Al Smith and connect it to her faith, that's authentic.
We got to leave it there. That does it for us. Thanks very much for watching. CNN Tonight with Don Lemon. Here we go. Hey, CNN Tonight with Don Lemon starts now. Bye.